And on this video, this is day 4 of the board and train process with Luci. And here, just want to cover off as to how the script lines up in terms of influencing a dog's decision-making process at the relational level. Because again, I show dogs are relational beings. But here within this framework of rehabbing Luci, who came down from Miami for a 2-week board and train to help her with regarding to aggression, because again she's gotten to that tipping point level, and how this all frames up with making sure we bring her into the right script, make sure I bring her into the right script, and so that I'm not going to be deceived. Now this is one of the things, if you watch my video, to talk about appearances and why people, trainers, behavioralists make certain assumptions about behavior and about response within the framework of how the script appears to be lining up, and when in fact oftentimes it does not represent relational change is happening at all. In fact, the dog is continuing to devalue the owner, to objectify and hold power. And so this whole thing about rewarding within a certain state of mind, okay, based on the script, is very problematic, because that state of mind could be in the devaluation stage still. And so what I show is it's all about how you think. It's mind and body, nature, to understand the whole dominance issue and even physical force. You have to understand dogs at the relational level. So here you hear Luci, a little underlying growl there. Again, this is why in this video I'll show you why it's so important to have mechanisms of control. Okay, you have to put mechanisms of control in place when you're rehabbing an aggressive dog to make sure no one gets bitten and hurt, including other dogs, people. And this is why I always show the best path to take when you're rehabbing a dog or influencing their decision-making process is with direct trainer or owner-dog interaction. To use other dogs, that's one of the relational dynamics at the appearance level, which can lead people into making certain assumptions from what's happening within that pack of dogs, which will give the appearance of power being taken away or balance happening. And oftentimes it isn't at the level that's going to push this back. So getting the right clarity is very important right at the starting gate. So here we're going to see even how you can tell. There's certain things you can tell when the dog is starting to come into the script, influence is taking hold. And one of those things, even when you start getting into how a dog accepts influence and control, even with the crate, with the muzzle, which you're going to see me put on Luci here in a minute, and so you can kind of see how this is lining up. With the leash even, because everything, when you think about what represents why a dog challenges certain levels of control, it'll help reveal the truth of where the relationship is heading. And that's, I say without, seeing the truth of things, you can't truly, know where you're at, number one, in the relationship, or how far you need to go to affect change. So it's all about getting clarity, and that's what this system is really about. It's a relational model. It's one of a kind, stands apart from all others that way, and it's very unique because it's totally about getting in tune to the dog at the relational level into the process. So you're basically basically to describe, you're way ahead of the curve. You're not waiting for the mind to blow up. You're not following a ideology which is going to paint a certain picture that really isn't true at all. You're not going to be deceived. You're going to see things for how they really are right away. And so that offers hope, for all dogs. It empowers people. It allows dogs like Luci to come back from the edge. And because honestly, within this weak script or how certain people frame up learning or behavior, they try to put it in little different compartments instead of what it is. It's an expressed state, and it's a symptom of dog needing role change. How others will label it up. Luci would be dead already. I mean, that's why she came down from Miami. So she'd be destroyed. But what I show is there's always hope as long as we're thinking rightly and we're aligning the right way to nature. But again, setting up these whole mechanisms of control, it gives us an advantage. It helps us keep a certain way of thinking. You don't want to enter training when it comes to change that thinking, I could get bitten, or then a bite happened and change the whole dynamic of things. So you have to keep these safeguards in place until role change takes hold. The other issue of the level of entrenchment, just so people understand how I structure the board and training process, why I only would recommend 2 weeks max at first, is because really the focus is on the owner changing. I mean, this is a bridge. This is a way to give people a boost, to take some pressure off them, to give them some extra hope. And but again, that bridge building process has to continue to the owner. That's why if you extend, this is how I do it. Others do it differently. But if you extend the board and training process past 2 weeks into, say, a month right away without giving that dog back to the owner to interact and continue building the bridge back and forth, I'll explain in a second, then you're presenting almost like a magic pill, okay? Like a dog can swallow a pill and be fixed. That's not how this works. I am really good at creating role changing dogs because of how I think. It's almost like a gift, I guess you could call it that. But within that framework, understanding that I'm creating the change, I'm bringing the dog into a state of balance at a certain level, but the owner needs to change. Once the dog goes back home with the owner, they have to totally change how they're thinking. You have to flip the script. You have to make sure you're on the right page, that you're thinking rightly, and that you're continuing to build that relational bridge. But within the framework of extending it longer than that, you're offering, basically presenting a package that I fixed the dog and the dog's good to go, and no. I mean, people who do that, you're not really being, or either you don't know, or you're trying to make it into some sort of a make work project or whatever. And that's just my opinion. The best way to do this, understanding how a dog's decision-making process is influenced at the relational level, is a couple weeks. Goes back to the owner for a couple weeks. Okay, really within that time period, have a session. Make sure you really are encouraging them to really change out how they think. The other thing is when the dog goes back. Now this is something that's really important to understand. This is why when people pick their dogs up, the dog will appear to regress really just from initial stages, because depending on how entrenched that is, because the dog has found comfort and fulfillment within power for a certain period of time with that owner, right away it's like a memory that's right there. I mean, it's like although change is created, but it's more like surface. It's there. They'll erode pretty fast if that owner doesn't change. So it's like it triggers that at the associated level, and so it will kind of cause the dog's decision-making process, mind to kind of become empowered a little bit, especially if they're not changing. So that's why it's important to keep these mechanisms of control in place, to keep it within the framework of an intervention for a period of time. Now, that period of time, you keep it at that level just depends on the amount of power the dog has held. But the issue with having success in the board training, part of that process is by coming into this environment right away, it flips the script pretty quick because all those connections are severed. The dog identifies me as the pivot point, and everything starts coming online pretty quick because it's like the script is just going to play out that way. There's nothing for them to grab onto, even if they want to, that way, because it's highly controlled. It's all about laying that foundation. But when the dog goes back to the owner at the associated level, you have to make sure that the owner's changed how they think, that they're continuing the same bridge building process. Otherwise, it will wash out very quickly with some dogs, depending on how much power they hold. So it's one of these things. When it's done, it has to be done. It should be done the way I'm describing it to be successful. Now here you're going to see me put. I'm going to switch gears here. I just want to talk that out so people understand the thinking. There's a lot to this. People have to understand there's a lot of dynamics in play. It's deeper than just. That's why people get deceived with appearances. How a dog's mind works. It comes to experience. It comes to not just accepting a certain way of thinking. It's challenging because the truth is very people say it. They really want to see it, but you have to really think rightly. So here, So here I'm going to start putting the muzzle on. But here, when you use a muzzle, put it on a dog that's holding a level of power, and it's a balancing act. Okay, you want to level yourself out a little bit. That's why there's nothing wrong with using when you first start this anyway, I'm not sure I started doing it using treats as a motivating agent, but it's more background noise. It doesn't define who I am. You understand? It's when people, that's the problem. People want to use certain things because it conforms to how they think, and that's the very problem. However, when you're using certain things and you're already thinking rightly and you're already, meet the criteria for leadership, it's okay to use certain things to kind of manage, to get a dog from point A to point B or into this, and then I'll bring influence online, just so I don't get bit. It helps to manage it. But once the dog, you want to kind of release those things from that script and make sure influence is coming on properly. And then what it is basically when a dog is coming into the script, they accept influence, but you still want to keep it down at kind of like a nudging effect, just at low levels, work it out. If you're using the acceptance level, you see a little back and forth here still because of the amount of power that's being held on to. So you still see sometimes, I think a couple times, some teeth showing, but it's more just, it's not bad intent. I mean, and that's the thing to look for too in aggression. Even in the intent levels, you'll see a dog, at first there's like a mean intent behind it. When a dog is powered and it's entrenched and there's a mean intent. Now, when relational change starts happening, you'll see the intent start to diminish. Even though you get the same type of display or expressed state, you see it goes from like a straight stream to like a mist. But you have to kind of know what to look for. You have to kind of feel or understand how that plays out. Because in that, also, you'll see change. So sometimes, because what happens is the dog will express a certain state for so long, becomes so entrenched, becomes almost part of how the dog is. But different than personality with people, it's the great thing about nature is dogs are all about following nature's path. So you can bring them to a state of balance, but at a certain level, you'll see expressed states kind of play out that way. But it's knowing what to look for, so you'll see change, even though you'll see similar reactions. Then it's just kind of surface stuff. It's just kind of a response, but there's the motives, the underpin aren't the same way. It's not like a real demonstration of expression or seeking fulfillment through power that way. So here, I'm going to put the muzzle on her, and then I'll stop the video, but I just want to see how this plays out. You watch, it's interesting because my plan here is to kind of show this top and bottom. You saw the first day she came in. You've seen the various interactions. I'm working with her, and all these different interactions are meant to create relational change. Just understand, it's relational. So how you interact is important. So it's all opportunity to bring her into the follower script, to work that script. Okay, that's what the interaction is designed to do. It's not just about going through the motions of something and not understanding the end game, which is often the case. Then you're like a hamster spinning in the wheel. It's about promoting change through interactions which are going to play off influence, relational influence, to work the script, to create these moments which, again, what they do is they allow me to fade in, okay? Fade back in. So, and influence how she thinks at the relational level. So anyway, I'm going to put this on her, but you'll see the interplay of this, and then I'll stop the video. Let's see. saw that, and you said, kind of what you're doing is like you're bringing influence online. Her body language is such that, she's kind of preparing her mind, okay? So it's kind of a little back and forth there. I'm not just, again, you have to understand kind of the interplay to be successful. And eventually what happens is she'll basically just go right into it. After, say, 2 or 3 more days, you'll see that. But here, just the interplay of that, her accepting it, because then, because really the magnet or the real influencing part of this where she falls into the script is through these follower moments, and through how influence comes online with influencing her decision-making process. Anyway, thanks for watching. Just want to give you a glimpse of that.